in Chapel Hill. This is WCOM 103.5. We're having a great time here. Glad you're joining us.
Good afternoon, Carborough. Here we are at WCOM 103.5 FM, Carborough's community radio station. This is State of the Station, show hosted by Jacques Menage, who's kindly invited the Carborian Radio Hour and some friends to come in and talk about a very important and timely issue. My name is Jennifer Yorkovich. I'm editor and publisher of the Carborian, the monthly free print newspaper that's for, by, and about people who live in, work in, and visit Carborough. It's available around town and its margins in Chapel Hill, Hillsborough, and Pittsburgh. And you can also check us out online at thecarborian.com. All right, so thanks again to Jacques for giving us this space to talk about the ongoing rebuilding of the Weatherhill Pointe neighborhood, which was devastated by Tropical Storm Chantal on July 6th this year. Jacques is here with me, and together we're delighted to welcome Weatherhill Pointe residents Peter Burke and Mercedes and Stan Terrell. Welcome, everybody.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm just moving up the volume so we can hear. All right, so let's begin. Let's begin on July 6th. All right, as we all know, we here in Carborough, torrential rain was falling throughout the afternoon, becoming heavier in the evening hours. Can you all describe for us the events of that evening and when you realized you would need to evacuate your homes?
I can start if you want me to.
Sure, thanks, Peter.
Yeah, this is Peter Burke. Yeah, we saw the rain. We got one warning about flash flooding in our general area, but there was nothing specific. And so we were just planning to spend the evening at home. And about 9:45, our electricity goes off. Okay, that can happen in a rainstorm. But then about 10:15, I heard this strange gurgling sound outside, out in back of our house. I go out on our back porch with a flashlight, and there I see there's water streaming at least a foot and a half, 2 feet above the base of our foundation. So we realized, okay, we are stuck here right now. What are we going to do? We decide to climb up the rickety ladder in our garage to our attic crawl space, which was very hard for me because I've got bad legs. Scrambled up there. We knew right then we needed to be evacuated rather than having any ability to evacuate.
Thanks, Peter. Stan and Mercedes, would you like to add?
We were in the same boat with Peter, basically. There was one of those rainy time, the heavy raining that we have. Like, we live in Carborough for 19 years in the neighborhood in Weatherhill, and we haven't seen something like that. So we were basically no concern about. We basically desensitized about the flash flood in Orange County, and we went to bed. We were ready to go to bed, and then our son David, who was living with us, car, the alarm just went off, and he came down and went opened the door to see what was going on, and then we saw the water reaching our porch already, and the water was coming really fast. And one of our neighbors stranded in the middle of the street in her car with her dog in the arm, trying to go to a higher ground, but he couldn't. So we went up. Our son said, go to the second floor. Thank God we had the second floor. And went up there and said, "Don't go down." And he went and picked up all the important things like document like passport, a little money, or something that we can be using at that time. And I started calling the 911 because I was concerned about our neighbor friend who's handicapped, Kate, who's handicapped, and she didn't have a second floor, and she just have one floor, and I just wanted somebody to get there and rescue her. And then we waited, and then about 1 o'clock in the morning, the boat came and rescued us and take us to the hotel. And the next day was just, I cannot describe it. It was just shocking to see our position destroyed in the 5th floor. And everything was gone. Car was gone. Our furniture was gone. Everything was wet. Everything was thrown out. And that has been the hardest situation we have living in Scarborough for 19 years.
Yeah, I think it's worth mentioning in the middle of this too that the fire department did an excellent job.
Yes,
we could hear. After all, and we were trying 911, and you couldn't get through because everybody was calling. So we began to hear a putt-putt of a motorboat and people yelling outside. So we started screaming from our attic, and the firemen came in, helped me get down the stairs out of the attic along with my wife, and we then collected what we could, including we had put our cat in her carrier on top of the fridge, figuring that's the simplest thing we could do. So we got the cat, computers, phones, and ourselves out of the house. And yes, what Mercedes is describing is the shock that we had once we got back to our houses. And it's like, what do we do now? Exactly. And that shock hasn't completely gone away for a lot of people.
It's still there's a lot of PTSD.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember opening the garage door, and I'm an artist and I work in my garage, and everything was just like a tornado cut in the garage and turned everything, even my working table was upside down, and I lost basically all my art supplies accumulated by 19 years.
Mercedes, how high did the water get in your house?
In our house,
downstairs,
about 8 to 10 inches, but the garage was like 3 feet of water, maybe more.
Yeah. Yeah, our garage, we didn't get as much water.
Yeah.
But yeah, it doesn't matter. Everything that was on the floor within...
Oh, everything that was on the floor was gone.
In our place, 4 to 6 to 8 inches above what was there got wet one way or another.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And of course, it's contaminated water.
Exactly.
Indeed.
We had to throw everything away from our chest of drawers, the one close to the door, whatever was in the
family photo albums,
everything. Like I end up with no underwear. And a friend called me and I said, "Nyanya, what do you need?" And I said, "Bring me some underwear."
Yeah. Yeah, it's like we were lucky. We have a really good friend who we could go to and we're still with, who's been marvelous.
Yeah.
But not everybody had that option.
Yeah. Yeah. It was the same with us. We have, we stayed the last 4 months. We stayed with the friends in Durham, good friends in Durham. But we were separated from David, our friend, and his dog. Nobody wanted David with a massive dog in their house. So he had to go. He ended up in Hillsborough in friend parents' farm. That was until now that we moved to we moved to a small apartment in Scarborough, and now we stay there until our house is finally finished.
Rebuild.
That's the next step.
That's the next step.
Hello, this is Jacques Ménage. I'm very grateful to you all for coming today and talking about this. It's an important issue. We're at WCOM FM 103.5 on your radio dial, and we're at 103 never at WCOMFM.org on the web. I wanted to mention that having lived here in Scarborough myself since 1969, I went through Fran, which was a very scary event in my life, and I've lived most of my life in a house on Main Street in Scarborough, and I'm also an artist, and I lost all my art supplies. I never saw. It was like the Titanic, and I know the feeling to see all your life floating away there. And I often ask myself, what am I going to do? Because it's going to happen again. And of course, it hasn't happened until recently. This storm just came upon us, and it didn't happen for a long time, and nothing happened for a long time. But I did take precautions to waterproof my basement, to have pumps, to be more or less ready. And I thought very much about what I would do if I had been warned. And I was warned because Fran was a very public thing. It was a massive storm, and we were warned a long time ago. What would I do had I heeded, had I listened to the warnings at whatever time they were given to us? And I would have done a few things. I would have probably prepared my bug-out bag and have my passport and money and whatever valuables they are, and I recommend that for everybody because we're headed that way with the climate. And I would have some kind of evacuation plan. And at the time, my parents were stuck in a different neighborhood in Chapel Hill, and I couldn't get to them because there were trees all over the road. And so I decided that I would include also a chainsaw that I could cut trees to work my way to help friends, and then that I would somehow have either an alternative place to go where there would be showers and warmth and what have you, or that I would create an alternative place for people to come and use that. And I think it's very important. I think you're lucky that you have friends and that they're willing to host you, and things are like that. And so we have to think about these things. I don't know what the conclusions of all your research is going to be about this storm, the Chantal, but part of it is going to have to be to fend for ourselves and to be ready at any given moment to help each other.
Yeah. As I told Jennifer before when she gave me an interview a long time ago in June, and is that Scarborough as a city or as a town is not only a town. Scarborough is a community. And one of the good things that came out of all this desolation and shock was see how us as neighbors came together and helped each other. You know, we were helping each other. Somebody was preparing food. The other one was offering us we stayed 4 nights in one of our neighbors that house was not flooded. And she was so nice to us that helped us, allow us to stay with her for 4 nights, Tommy. And she was a godsend to us. So the whole neighborhood everybody was walking down and up the street like in shock, you know? Everybody was like in shock. But everybody came to help each other, came together to help each other. You know, we were concerned, how is Peter, how is Kay, how is Kate, how is Stella, how is Rubina, how is it? We were searching for how is Jay doing, caring about other people, knowing, like, we want to know what happened to our friends, what happened to our neighbors, helping each other.
It's a great advantage to live in a small community.
We are not a neighborhood. We're a cohesive community.
Yeah, it's been around for 30, 35 years, and there is a homeowners association. I have to note that we just got an email saying that there'll be a community soup lunch on the 30th of November at one of the houses, and that'll be a chance for us to get back and see each other, which we haven't been able to do. But I want to follow up what Jacques had to say is, yes, we have our own responsibility. We're being advised by the authorities, yes, do all the things that Jacques mentioned. But the other thing we need to do is have a system within the community, a communication system that is semi-independent, that we're going to have telephone trees, text trees, whatever, going from door to door if we can, depending on the situation. Though we're missing one piece of that. The North Carolina has the flood inundation mapping network, and they have sensors all over the state. And there used to be one down Morgan Creek from us at Smith Level Road, and that hasn't worked for the last year. Prior to that, I'd been tapping into it on a regular basis when we had heavy rain, because you can see online, they can give you projections of what flooding is going on in your neighborhood. But we were blinded that night, so that anything in the future, part of the flood warning, improved flood warning, has to be getting that thing reinstalled, which gives our community the ability to complement whatever the authorities are doing within the community, and making sure we're communicating with each other during that kind of event again, or any heavy rain events, whatever.
Mm-hmm. Thanks, Peter. Picking up on what you said, the soup lunch on the 30th is a chance for the neighborhood to come back together, noting here that they've been displaced. The majority of residents of that neighborhood have been displaced through this time. And so bringing them all back together will be a great event in many ways. That first week, I'm reflecting back on that first week. Full disclosure, I live up the hill from this neighborhood. And being down there in an environment that where people were truly experiencing shock and loss and grief, and noting that the first week after a disaster like that, government assistance cannot respond adequately to the needs. It's just slow, right? It's just slow to get the declarations required to get money flowing at all levels. And so it was so important that the community came together that week to support each other in figuring out the next steps. And I think you were blessed in that someone on the HOA had worked in disaster management before. Not every neighborhood has that, but that person was able to really make the calls that needed to be made, organize people and volunteers in the way that needed to be done to help people get through that week.
Yeah, and that helped us, because that first period is the remediation process, which is basically cleaning up the house from the flood damage. And there was a company that had come in very quickly that a number of the neighbors tapped into, but other people then searched for other kinds of things. So it was, some of that started more quickly than with others. So that first you have to get your insulation all taken out. You have to have the house dried out over and over again when it has no air conditioning in the middle of a hot, humid summer.
95 plus degrees.
Yeah. So that was like the first thing to deal with. And part of that process was getting the stuff out of your house that you couldn't keep. For us, it was, this is what we want to keep. We've got to get into storage, and we had friends that were marvelous to help us get that kind of thing done. I don't know what happened with you all.
We had friends that came and helped pack out, and then there was volunteers like the Team Rubicon that came, that were very helpful. But the mucking out remediation process was really painful. I've never felt so disempowered. You just didn't know what to do. And I ended up, paying top dollar to get it done, and it got done. And fortunately for us, and I think Peter, Habitat came in and is going to be doing the restoration of our house. But other than, if they hadn't been, I'm not really sure what we would have done. We would have been able to reoccupy the house and stay in the community. So it's,
amen to that.
Yeah, amen.
Yeah, the restoration process is the second thing to happen. And some people decided not to go beyond remediation. Some of us had insurance. We didn't, because we didn't think we'd have this kind of event.
We were taken out of we were taken out on the 17th, 2017, that was declared there was no flooding. So we stopped paying our insurance because of that.
Well, FEMA, basically, that was FEMA. They delisted us from the dangers. They identified communities that should have insurance, and they decided that ours didn't need it. And that wasn't just our neighborhood; it was a national thing. And a number of us felt that way. It was like, okay, fine. We had a little bit of maybe an hour of minor street flooding during the hurricane in 2018.
Yeah.
And that was all we had. And that dissipated within the hour. And so it's like, okay, we felt like it was okay. And then we were stuck with the chunk of remediation. And then, like they were saying, it's, okay, how are we now going to get our houses fixed up? And right now, other people are relying on their insurance, but that has been taking time for people. 6 people in the community decided to sell their houses as is to investors, and we don't know there's only one house that we can see is something's being done, and it's still, if you have insurance, there was still a lot of work to do, and validating your losses, et cetera, et cetera. So that's part of the scattering of the community, is that I think of a couple of houses that people are back into that had been flooded, but that's about it right now.
Mm-hmm. The majority of homes are still in the rebuilding process. You'd say, yeah. Let's talk more about that. Can you tell us more about the progress there? What's been happening in your homes, and what's been happening in the neighborhood overall during this time? This has been several months. Mercedes, you mentioned Habitat for Humanity of Orange County is working on your home.
Yes. They show up in the neighborhood about the third day, the second or third day. And we were scratching our head about how we're going to pay for this. It's crazy. Living on a fixed income. And then a neighbor called and say, Habitat is on the... Or she mentioned us to Habitat, and then we got in communication with them. I don't remember how it went. Stan?
They called us.
They called us, and then we sent some picture out, some documents, something like that. And 48 hours, they act really quickly. 48 hours after, they were calling us to tell us that we were approved. And that day, we were driving to Weaver Street, and we were parking, and he called, Taylor called, and he said, "You've been approved." And I, out of the top of my lungs, I said, "Hallelujah, gloria a Dios." It was so funny. And I said, "They're going to think you are crazy." They say, "Yes, I'm crazy. I'm crazy of happiness." You know, they've been doing a great job. They've been above and beyond to meet our needs and to repair our house. They currently working on it, and we hope that maybe in 3 months, 2 months, 3 months, we'll be back to our house. We're not selling our house. We're staying in our neighborhood. We're staying in our community.
Yeah.
The progress is going in fits and starts. A lot of it has to do with the inspection process that every little phase has to go through. And if you don't get past it, and you've got like a couple weeks before you can remediate. And I'm not blaming the inspectors for that. There are too few inspectors right now for the work that's being done.
Yeah.
But it's just, it's been a slow, uneven progress. But there is progress, and it is going, and we can see the difference, and we are very, very grateful.
And your home, as I recall, having seen it, it was taken down to the studs, right? All the wall, the flooring ripped up, everything to the bare bones of the home on the first floor.
Yes.
Right.
And
the garage.
And the garage, and that had to be replaced.
And that mirrored what happened at our place as well. I mean, they did that, and I kept joking about the good bones in our house, though it's true. But since then, they leveled the floors. They have taken care of the walls. This week, they're putting in flooring. And maybe next week, they'll get started with kitchen cabinets. We've had to buy, which actually this reminds me, I've got to delay the arrival of a new stove and dishwasher until it's the proper time to have them have them delivered so they can install them. So there's all these little bits and pieces of things, but they've been doing a great job of giving us a weekly update. So I feel like, yes, they've been realistic, have given us these tentative time frames, and though it is taking time, and it's now 4+ months since we've been in our homes,
week by week,
and maybe by Christmas, who knows? Though I may be a bit optimistic, but yeah, it's going to happen.
Good. Okay, let's talk a moment about the neighborhood itself. We've had 1 or 2 community cleanup days there because, of course, with the mucking out and then the rebuilding, there's a lot of construction debris all around the neighborhood, and I know folks have come together to clean that out. Is the playground open? Do you know?
No. It's open?
Oh, yeah, it's open. I'm not sure it's... there's no sign saying people can't. I've seen... one neighbor of ours was down there, and I've seen some other folks in there because sometimes there are folks from other neighborhoods that come down. But yeah, it got in the one of the community cleanups. They just cleaned all out the soil and whatever, and then replaced it. And I mean, it's fit for use. And it's nice. It's really nice to see people using it. When I first saw that, I was like, "Wow! Here are some of our neighbors that come back down. Kids on there. They wanted to come down and be in the playground." So that's that's that nice little sign of progress.
But they barred Halloween trick-or-treaters from coming in. They set up a post up at the top of the hill and handed out treats at the top. They didn't feel the place was still 100% safe.
Yeah, the HOA has been doing little things like that, and the soup lunch that's coming up. We know that most of them were affected directly by the flooding, and it makes it hard. That's hard when you've got your own stuff going on, but then you've got to look at the community needs, and it's just a lot for 6 people to deal with.
What I think is hard also is like when I go down there, or when we go down there, like yesterday, I went down to the neighborhood and I went to the house to see what was going on. I visited a friend who had been sick, a neighbor who had been sick, and it's just like the energy that used to have our neighborhood of people walking up and down the street and things like that, and everybody moving and say hi, good morning, and kids going around too, and it looks like a ghost town to me.
Yeah, it's pretty quiet except for where work is going on.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Essentially, I mean, and Tommy Howard, who is the person that put these folks up for that time, has told me, because she's a friend as well, that she feels really strange being not having people around.
Exactly.
And it's that will be restored once everything is settled. That's going to take time. There are a lot of variables about housing in the future. But there are also other short-term things that we've got ahead of us this week.
So a neighborhood in recovery is what I'm hearing from you all, and it's slow going, and I'm really sorry about that. I see that there's been some help. There's also been some neighborhoods all over the area, not just Scarborough but Chapel Hill, that have been badly affected. Some of them, like Camelot, they're used to this kind of flooding. It happens every year or every other year, and they just call the insurance company and start renovating immediately. It's almost too crazy for words. But some of us are lucky in that we have a little bit of money and we are able to fall back on our feet, and others don't have that luck. It's so important to appreciate and to, because of our privileged situation, be able to help others. I also notice, because our studios at WCOM are in the Drakeford building, that just a few days after the Chantal event, there was already recovery help happening here. I don't know if you guys got to even hear about this, but there were desks and volunteers working, helping to file insurance claims and sometimes finding alternative ways of funding. It was a pretty good response, I felt, given the fact that I've never seen anything like it before in Scarborough. And I know that the bottom line for you all is that your property lost value, tremendous value. And because now there is the stigma, the past, that it will flood again, and the value is dropped considerably. I think that you could still buy insurance, flood insurance, and hope for the best, but I know how insurance companies work, and I know how expensive flood insurance is going to be.
Yeah.
So $4,000 a year, roughly.
Yeah, $4,000 a year is
at least.
It's a huge chunk of money, not to mention the taxes that you all pay in Scarborough and so forth. It's pretty outrageous, and I don't know if there's any way to to deal with that, maybe there's a way that the HOA can share some kind of protection as a group, and that you could organize to do something like that. But mainly what comes to my mind is what now? What now? So we know this can happen, we know this happened, and what are we going to do in the next 2-3 years to deal with this again?
Yeah, what that reminds me of is that we sit in our community, and not just us, below University Lake. It's a 93-year-old lake and dam. It only has a spillway, so there's no way of controlling the overflow. And it reminds me too much, personally, of stories of other flood situations, Johnstown, Pennsylvania, for example, where there's been a lake that causes flooding. And the lake is owned by the university. It's leased to OWASA as the water supply company for our area. It's the water, when the water flows out, it goes into Carrboro, but the lake is not in Carrboro. I'm not even sure it's in Chapel Hill. It's part of the county, as I understand it. So it's a complex situation when you've got that fear, and there's no way to control the overflow at this point. And that plus improved flood warning, which the authorities learned needed to happen after Chantal. We're still waiting to hear what is going to be proposed for that.
That's right. Nice lead in to our next point, which is that OWASA has invited residents of Weatherhill Pointe and Berryhill neighborhoods and the surrounding neighborhoods to a meeting at University Lake on Thursday at 4 p.m. And in their words from the invitation, this meeting is with Carrboro Fire Chief Will Potter, who's also the emergency manager for Carrboro, and OWASA's Director of Water Resources, Allison Spinelli. So Chief Potter and Ms. Spinelli will discuss our organization's communication during emergencies, how University Lake and the dam is impacted by flooding events, and how we can rapidly improve our community's preparation for extreme flooding in the future. So for you all residents of these neighborhoods, I'm curious, what are your thoughts about that agenda, and what do you hope will come out of the meeting?
Yeah, it's a limited agenda. It gets up to the point of how can we work for preparation, which means improved flood warning. The community itself, the communities, taking responsibility for setting up internal communication systems. It doesn't include, and I don't think it could include, the flood sensor issue on Morgan Creek. But it doesn't obviously say anything about or even apply anything about the ultimate problem, which is the control of the overflow from the lake. I mean, we'll get to see it. No, it's not quite in the flesh, but we'll get to see the dam because we're going to be meeting right by the dam on Thursday.
To take a picture of the lake.
Although I'm not sure that everybody wants to look at overflow from the dam at this point after us receiving it on the night of July 6th. And we'll see. Again, there's multiple authorities involved in all this. But what I'm curious most about is are they going to set a different level for OWASA? OWASA's evacuation level was basically set at just above where the overspill got to on July 6th, which means it could have overflowed with a few more inches of less than an inch of rain. It would have spilled over the earthen rim that adjoins the dam. I'd like to know what their plans are if that it got to that point, or what are they doing about that kind of issue. But it's not clear whether that's even on anybody's agenda for Thursday. So we'll see what they come up with in terms of a probe warning, and does it fit the realities that we've seen in our community that I've been tracking for the last 7 years, about how much rain, what's the equivalent of how much rain on flooding, because we've had minor flooding in the past that floods along Morgan Creek behind some houses, and but this, of course, was much higher. So we've got to give them, I think, some reality in terms of, yes, is this the kind of improved flood warning? And we'll see what their reaction is to it. And then we're going to if they're going to talk about, here's the dam, we're going to say, okay, it only overflows. There's no control on that on that water that we can see, even though it's kind of low right now. So we'll see. There are still miles to go, obviously, because if you're talking about that controlling the overflow, that gets into all sorts of political and financial issues. So
this was just adding some numbers here. Chantal took the water level 93 inches over the spillway. The previous event that even came close to that was Florence in 2018, which was 54 inches. Yeah. So we're talking a magnitude of difference there.
Yeah, and that 93 inches is it's roughly, let's see, if it's 93 inches, then it's like 6 inches, 7 inches from the 100, the evacuation level. So that, again, the issue is that the water almost got over the rim of the lake. And we all know that anything's possible in terms of rainfall in the future.
But even without getting to that level, that would have triggered formal evacuations. We still needed evacuations before we got to that level. Yeah.
Yeah, they would have declared an evacuation had it gotten higher about the time we were being evacuated by the fire department from our homes.
Yeah, I guess also we're interested to see, are they going to listen to us and really engage in a dialogue? And, and the dam has just been a hot potato, and no one's going to want to take responsibility for it. I'm not sure how we can hold their feet to the flame on that one. It's going to be an effort.
It may require multiple flames.
Yeah.
So coming out of Thursday, what is the best case scenario in your minds? You would come out there knowing that the people who need to sit down and make a plan are making a plan? Is that it? Or there's a promise to meet again soon to discuss more details with you? What are your hopes coming out of the meeting?
Well, I hope that they come up with a mostly realistic, improved flood warning plan, but also take into account our feedback with and giving a promise that, okay, we're going to take these things seriously and we're going to go back to the table and take care of that. For me, I just hope they're able to listen to us and acknowledge what we're saying about the concern we've got about the dam overflow. I can't see we're going to get any promises because OWASA cannot promise a change in the dam. It's only the university has to get involved in that, and they have not been any part of any such presentations or discussions, at least that we've been aware of.
And, for my part, I'm hoping that OWASA and the other entities don't treat this meeting as a closure. And, we've done, this is a wrap-up, thank you very much, but rather a beginning of a real process to work through these issues, the communications, yes, but also the spill, the overflow. They need maybe 1 or 2 working groups, and they need outside technical expertise. This is just something that I don't think can be handled purely in-house.
Yeah, there's just I'd like to feel a commitment for pushing the issue, but not, OWASA can't do it by itself. The town can't do it by itself. People have got together. The Orange County Emergency Management has to be involved. But we can play a role of giving feedback on things if we're allowed to do that. And but they're going to have, the authorities involved have got to come up with something, because we're not technological experts.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah, we know that people need to get together, they need to be committed, and they got to deal with the financial issue.
Mm-hmm. Okay, the community wants to be heard. They want better prevention measures and preparedness, assistance with preparedness, with communications, and other ways to avoid the kind of devastation that was experienced in this community taken unawares.
Also monitor what is going on, and you go
continuous monitoring.
Go to the neighborhoods or the communities and say, listen, you have to be evacuated. You have to go to higher ground. This is coming. This is what is coming. The water is rising. We think it's going to overflow. It's going to overflow your community. You have better, you better get out now that it's time, rather than waiting for that flood of water rushing down at a speed level that a house was flooded in minutes. This is too much. This is not acceptable.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
They need to work on their triggers from monitor to action.
Triggers for monitor
And
to
whether
action. Thank you, Stan.
they're realistic to give enough time that we can pick up the emergency bag, throw things with our pets in the car, and get out. Just speaking for me, it would have been helpful just to be able to get our cars out.
Yeah.
Because that by itself was, if we had time to get in a car and get out, that's a lot different than what we experienced.
Well, thank you so much, Jennifer, and thank you, guests, for coming today and talking about this issue. It's so important, and what you're going to do in the months to come is also very important. And this is a great segue to WCOM's function in the community. As a community radio, we really want to participate into the efforts of everyone to mitigate any kind of emergency. So thanks for listening. WCOM FM 103.5 and WCOMFM.org on the internet. And thanks again to everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Democrats never gave a crap about the Epstein thing until it suddenly became, oh my God, look at this. It turns out not only was it a great weapon because of all the, sheikhs and princes and prime ministers and billionaires that were implicated, as if these 1,000 girls were not a reason to do something about it. But that's another story. But as I'm looking at this, I'm wondering, there is now a schism happening within the Republican ranks. And the schism is in part they're terrified about the healthcare fight. They're actually terrified about SNAP because in those red states, most of their states are on SNAP, and how do you step up? And they're actually worried about the immigration thing, not only because they see how brutal it is, but they realize how important these undocumented immigrants are to their manufacturing sector and their agricultural sector and their retail sector. So on every level, they're being harmed. And now it's young girls and sex. Okay? And I just think it's kind of fascinating. And one of the things, reason I want to bring this up is that I saw a story today out of Florida. It's about ICE arrests more than 230 in Operation Criminal Return. And the ICE officials announced that they have raided 230 people. 54 of the individuals that they raided were sexual predators, at least identified as such, and 164 had offended with sexual crimes. And I went, wow, they're arresting them and they're then going to ship them out. What's going to happen when they find out all those names in the Epstein file? Will they do the same thing? Will they arrest them? Will they ship them out? Will they bring trial on them? Again, I want people to see the split screen. They're using sex here as their excuse with ICE. But when it comes to Epstein, what's sex? Anyway, Sophia, I'd love to get your take on this Epstein thing as it impacts all the other things we're looking at.
Yeah, I mean, before we move into Epstein, I just want to jump a little bit on the earlier topic and say, at the end of the day, you set this up as a problem where the U.S. government isn't serving the people, and the challenges that we've seen and how this has been playing out for decades. But we're also seeing with the shutdown that the two-party system, the longer that that stays entrenched as the dominant structure through which politics happens, there simply isn't true democracy in this country.
Yeah.
Right? Ron got experience with Chile. If you want to govern there, you have to create a coalition, right? The U.S. government, as long as we have this two-party oligarchy, is never going to serve the people. So, you know, that's my take on that. But talking about Epstein, I mean, one of the kind of fascinating things about Epstein is that we know that there's one place where the left and the right meet, and that's conspiracy. They may not agree on the same ones, but they really do love to dive into these sort of, snake pits of conspiracy. And did you know? And I think one of the things about Epstein is it's really one of those places where we're seeing sort of an odd unity in what we might have think of as the fringe left and the fringe right. The hypocrisy behind taking seriously or not taking seriously, right? The really disturbing stories we know, right, happened through Epstein and that probably Trump was involved with. You know, we have yet to get the conclusive proof. This is the fact that there's a hypocrisy there over who's being held accountable. I mean, we know that story. I'm not sure that we're going to get much from it, right? So I take your point that the ICE raid reminds us that there's hypocrisy. Yeah. People like you and I think hypocrisy matters, but that's a really tough fight. But Ron, what I think is so important is that I go back to the pedophile scandal with the Catholic Church. All right. And the reason I go back there is that it turns out a lot of people were not just furious at the priest pedophiles. They were furious at the cardinals and the bishops that knew about the priest pedophiles. And instead of pulling them out, eliminating them, letting them have no contact ever, defrock them, they moved them to another church. Okay? And so the outrage is you had a responsibility, you had knowledge, you were a fiduciary, we were innocent, like these girls were innocent, and you find out whether they actually had sex with these girls or knew about the sex, a pox on them. You know what? To me, there's no difference. Because what you basically did was, even though you never touched her, you made sure she was harmed because you did nothing. And I think to bring it back to the Catholic Church and pedophilia is not a bad thing to do.
I'm not sure how to respond to that, Arnie, other than to say that all of the morals and principles and ideology of the modern Republican Party seems to be situational. There's no consistency. It's, okay for me, but not for thee. And we see it time and time and time again. And it is curious, for reasons that the academics among us will have to study because you all are a lot smarter than I am, how this Epstein fiasco may prove to be the breaking point. Nothing else has gotten any legitimate traction. Maybe it won't be. Eric Swalwell, I believe, called it the beginning of the end. We've heard that before, but it seems like right now there is more support for transparency on this issue in a quote-unquote bipartisan way than we have seen for anything in a long time.
And you know what, Ron? It's not just about the sex. It's about who is in the file. When you realize it's prime ministers and princes and heads of Harvard and Bill Clinton and Donald Trump and all these people, it is such a conga line of wealth and influence that it's unbelievable. Stephen, you have your hand raised.
Yeah, I wish Ron were right. I actually don't think that this is going to wind up being a turning point, because when all is said and done, we are not actually learning anything new, right? The current president of the United States is an adjudicated rapist. right? He is on record as bragging about his ability to perpetrate sexual assault without consequence. He is on record multiple instances of saying the most disturbing things about his own daughter that you can imagine, right? All of these rich white men who have been associated with this group will lead lives like most of the men that you were talking about in the Catholic Church. Our attention will move on. They will marshal their lawyers if they need to. They will get pardons from the president. We will move on to other things. I hope I am wrong. I do not believe for a moment that this is the beginning of the end.
All right, Lincoln, last thoughts.
My last thought is that Stephen said it better than I could. I'm with him 100%.
Okay, so Sophia, all right, I'm going to end with you then, because here's my point. My point is take the grotesque inequality, take the rise of the billionaires, take the elimination of access to health care, make sure you throw in the climate crisis, throw all these things in. You have an opportunity to channel the anger to exactly all those people in the Epstein files. So you've got the sex and you've got the consequence. And if you can't wed these two together, then what the hell are you a party for, Sophia?
Yeah. It's keep your eye on the ball, right? Or keep your eye on, we have to pay attention to what really matters, right?
Yes, you're so funny, Ron Abramson. It is,
This was a G-rated program. I was trying to
I know.
I didn't say it. I didn't say it.
No.
You were thinking it so loudly, though, Sophia.
Anyway, there's a bit of me that's grateful for the chaos because it also creates opportunity. And yet what I watched happen when they decided to reopen government, we don't even recognize when the opportunity exists. With that, let me thank my panel from Rethink the Week. Thank you, Stephen Pimpere, Ron Abramson, Lincoln Mitchell, and Sophia McLennan. This is the Monday edition of The Attitude. We will schmooze tomorrow, everyone. Ciao.
Got your Uncle Dougie back on the radio in exactly 1 minute. Stand by.